Hello friends, so today we are gonna install Ubuntu OS with network. So the previous installation which I did in video 1 that was done without networks, that is after downloading the ISO and the OVM installer I had disconnected my Wi-Fi just to show how to install if you just have the ISO and the installer from a friend or somewhere else. So another thing which we would be seeing in this video is the options which we left default, so we'll try to change them and we'll try to explain them. So let's create a machine. I give the name as Ubuntu-net and I'll use 32-bit as our ISO is 32-bit. Okay, so if you look at the type, you would have different types there. You have Windows, Linux, Solaris. So depending on what OS you are installing, you would choose the type accordingly. So our Ubuntu is a flavor of Linux. So we are using the type Linux and 32-bit ISO, so 32-bit. So next is this RAM size, which is 1024 as default. So if you remember before cloning, I changed this to 512 from the RAM, from the settings. So for now, I'll leave this as 1024 because my other machines which I created are down and I have enough RAM space. But if you want, of course, you can decrease it, increase it according to your need, and change the RAM size. So for now, I'll leave it as 1024 and hit next. And next screen, we are seeing the hard disk selection. So there are three options. We went by the default create a virtual hard disk now, but the other two options if we want to look at are do not add a virtual hard disk. So what it will do, it will not add a hard disk right now, but later during the installation you can allocate the hard disk and install it. The other option, which is use an existing hard disk, if you want to use that, you can use existing VDI. Like if you see, it is showing Ubuntu 01, 02, 03, the machines which we have created. So if you want to use one of those VDIs and do not want to spare another disk size from your actual hard disk, you can use the existing VDI and overwrite it. It is same as like overwriting a disk for a new installation. But now we want to install a fresh machine, so I'll go with the create a virtual hard disk now. Okay. The next screen, it is showing the hard disk file type. So we last time selected VDI virtual disk image, that is the default option, and we have another option virtual hard disk and the VMDK, which is pretty common in the ESX or the VMware environment to use in enterprise. So it doesn't matter which one you use, so we'll just go by the default which we have, VDI. Next screen, it is asking for storage on the physical hard disk. So the two options which we have is dynamically allocated and fixed size. So we left it dynamically allocated last time because what it does, even if we give it the VDI size as 10 gig, it would not allocate 10 gig out of your actual hard disks immediately. Rather, whatever is needed, like suppose if it is needed 2 gig, it will just take out 2 gig out of your hard disk and install the OS. But with fixed size, it will try to allocate all of the 10 gig from your actual hard drive. So if you have less space on your actual hard drive, dynamically allocated is best. So let's do next. And on this screen, it is asking for the file location and the size. So we can give the name whatever we want. So I'll leave it as the host name, and the size it is gonna use for the VDI. But like I said, it is not gonna allocate entire 10 gig for that VDI right now. You can choose the option or the location where it needs to create that VDI. So if you see, it has a default path right there and it will create the VDI over there. So this is the same name which we just saw, Ubuntu 01, Ubuntu 02 in the previous page. So let's create the machine, and we have to attach the ISO to install OS like we did for the first time. So let's go to the settings, and here we have to go to the storage, and If you see the ID, it is showing as empty right now. So here we have to attach the ISO where what we have downloaded from the internet, the Ubuntu ISO. So it's showing me the ISO directly, but you can go to a location where you have downloaded the ISO and you can choose it from there. And once you choose that, you will see that empty is changed by the ISO name, right? But before we go to install the OS, let's see a couple of other options which are useful here. So let's go to the system and motherboard. So if you see here the RAM, which I changed last time also before cloning the machine. So here you can change the RAM from 1024 to whatever size you want. And the next important thing on this page is the boot order. So if you see, it is showing you the floppy, optical, and the hard disk. So if you do have your floppy drive in laptop or computer, which is very rare, you can leave it marked. Otherwise, you can uncheck it. So the other options, optical, which is CD, your physical CD attached to the laptop, or the ISO which we attach, or the hard disk. So that is the boot order you can define. Same way we have the processor, so it is gonna build with default one CPU. So I'm gonna leave it as it is as default. But if you want to increase it and you have the capacity, you can increase it. This snapshot is something which is used in enterprise for backup and restoration of servers. We are not gonna need it much. The other options is like copy and paste if you want to enable from the virtual machine and your laptop. The network, which we have already seen in the previous video, how to configure the host only network. So it is already covered. Okay, so let's start the machine now. You can directly start it from there, from the top. So let's start it from there this time. And there you go. The machine has started to boot. And now we will see the options and the detail. So here it is asking the language. So the language in which it is gonna show you the installation. So we will choose English as a language, and the next page it is showing you the options for the installation. You want a default install, or you want SWE kernel, or you want to do other options. So for now we are just installing it, so we'll go by the install option. Here on the next page, it is asking for the language in which it is gonna install the OS. So here also we will choose English. And next page, it is asking for the country or the region. So I'll choose United States, where I am right now. Here it is asking to configure the keyboard layout. If you give yes, it is gonna ask to hit a few keys on your keyboard on which it will analyze what kind of keyboard you are using. You can do that if you want, but that is not a kind of a easy method which I found, and normally we know our keyboard layout, so I'll just choose no here. So my keyboard layout is US English, which is kind of a default, so I'll go by that and hit next. And then here also it is English, so I'll choose English. And there you go, installation is started now. Okay, now it is asking for the host name, but if you recall my first video, it asked for the DNS before asking the host name, but it did not ask me the DNS information here because I am connected to the network, and it took the DNS, DHCP, all that information from my service provider because it is connected to the network, and it is directly asking me the host name. So I would be using the same host name what I gave on the OEM as Ubuntu net. Okay, here it is asking for the full name of the new user. So full name is like first name and second name. So let's, for example, my first name is user and the last name is default. So this is my full name, and I'll give that and hit continue. So the next page it is asking for the user ID. So it's the kind of short form for the name which we use for the user ID. So I'll use the same user1 here too. We'll give the password and re-enter the password. Okay, next. In the next page, it is asking for the encryption of your home directory. So generally home directory keeps the user's data. So that is why it is asking if you want to encrypt it. So if you say yes, it will try to encrypt the home directory data on the VDI, not entire VDI, but just the home directory data. But we are not uh, on need of encryption. So we'll hit no. Okay, on this screen, if you see, it is asking for the time zone. And it is giving me the option already America, New York. But if you remember from the first video, it did not show me this option. Rather, it asked me the time zone where I gave the Eastern. Because I am connected to network, it is directly giving me the option to select yes. Here it is asking for the options for the disk partition. So the default option is with LVM, which we chose, which is the best option. The first option, if you see, it is saying the entire disk. So what it will do, it will not create the LVM, rather it will simply use the entire disk as the partitioning without LVM. And the next one is encrypted LVM. So like it was asking for encryption of home directory, here it is asking to encrypt the entire VDI. The last one is manual, and it is like few years back installation where used to use and define the partitions for home directory, for user, for where, whatever size we want. So we will go by the default here too. And it's just showing the SCSI disk which it just created and asking for the confirmation. So hit yes. And here it is asking for the confirmation that on that disk you want to configure the LVM and you want to do the partitioning with the LVM. So hit yes. And here it is asking for the confirmation that how much size of the 10 gig you actually want to use for the LVM. So if you want to use lesser than 10 gig, what we chose for VDI, we can do that. So let's do it 8 gig this time. So what it will do, it will just choose um, it will just create LVM over the 8 gig and leave 2 gig aside. And if later we want to use that in the LVM configuration, we can extend the LVM for that 2 gig. And now it's showing us the configurations for the LVM that it is gonna create the VG Ubuntu Net VG, and it is gonna create the LV as root swap one, and how it is gonna mount them. So it is kind of a confirmation or the information which is providing you that how it is gonna create the LVM. So just click yes, and there you go, the partitioning has started, and as well as the installation has started. Here we have the options to choose for the updates, for the package updates. So we went by the default option no automatic updates last time, which we would be going this time too. But let's see the other two options. So on the second one, it's saying security updates automatically. So what it will do, it will automatically install the security updates during the installation. And if you see the next option, it is saying manage system with the landscape. So landscape is a application or the software by the Ubuntu parent company Canonical. So it is for managing the servers, but we are installing this on the laptop, so we'll not use that. So let's go by the default. Okay, here on this page it is asking for the package selection. So it is the same screen which we got in the last video too. So the first option is manual package selection. If we want to choose the packages manually, what packages we want to install, we can go by the manual package selection, but we don't want to do that. Next is DNS server. So if you want to install a DNS server and run DNS services on this server, you can choose DNS server. Next up is LAMP server. So it is a short form for the LAMP stack, that is Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. So if you want to use server as a LAMP stack server, you can go by the LAMP, but we are not going to use it as LAMP. So let's go to next. Next is mail server. So if you want to use the server as mail server, we will use mail server. Next is PostgreSQL, which is a type of database. So if you want to use this as a database server, we will select this one. Next up is Samba file server. So if you want to run this server as a Samba server and you want to run Samba services on this server, you can select Samba file server. Virtual machine host, it is kind of the facility for installing virtual machines, so kind of installing OS on Ubuntu OS, so which don't want to do because we are installing it on the laptop, so we will leave that as is. And the utilities, which installs like telnet and other packages, the default OS packages as part of system utilities, and that is automatically selected, so leave that as is selected. So the last one is OpenSSH server, and we chose this last time too, and we will be doing this. We'll be selecting this this time too, because OpenSSH installs the SSH packages, and if you don't install OpenSSH, you won't be able to connect with Putty. So this is something which we are gonna need. So just hit a space and continue. This is all fast forwarded. Okay, now, so if you see on this page, it is asking for the confirmation before installing grub. So why it is doing so? So if you remember, we had an option to choose an existing VDI. So if you're doing something reinstallation on an existing VDI, this is where this confirmation comes into the picture. So if you have a OS already installed on a VDI, and if you want to say no, you can still hit no here. But we are using a new VDI, so it is good for us. So let's hit yes and continue. Okay, installation is complete and it is asking for the reboot confirmation. And it is also saying to remove the media. So the ISO which we attach, that gets by default removed on all the virtual machine environments like OVM, VMware Workstation, or the ESX, even on the enterprise. So you don't have to manually remove it. But if there is a physical CD attached to it and which is available now for your OS through the virtual machine drivers, you need to remove that CD from your laptop or your computer physically. The ISO, that is good. So let's hit continue. Okay, our server is booted now, so let's try to log in with the user one. And there you go. We are able to log into this server too. So the difference, if you see here from the previous installation and this one, it is showing you 157 packages can be updated, 105 updates or security updates. Why? Because during the installation we had our network on and it checked with the internet repositories that the packages are available, and in the previous video if you would see, it was showing just 0 packages can be updated and 0 updates are security updates. So the installation is done, and we are done for this video. For next video, we are gonna see the OS configurations inside Ubuntu. So we will see user management, network configuration, package management, and all kind of the configurations inside the OS. So for now, thank you for watching.